I'm Shakil Sarfian.
I'm Lim Shi-An.
I'm Brinda Menon.
We've all been given a design job each.
I would be out of fashion if I was in the 30s.
So if my machine breaks down, I'll call you in.
For a first-timer, I do see the potential.
And we're hyped to see where this will take us.
I'm up first. Hyperlocal, vintage, and life-sized. Buzzwords that describe my design brief. I'm looking to the past for inspiration. Will I need to swap my stylus for a paintbrush or my tablet for a canvas? Graphic design is the art of creating visual content that can communicate a message. It can be found in anything you buy. My kind of style? Think contemporary and current. Clean, fluid lines, less clutter, more white space, muted color schemes. My next client presents a different challenge. I've never worked on a marketing campaign for bags before. Can I pull this off? The job requires an old world aesthetic, and my current portfolio is very different. But I'm not one to back down from a challenge. So I'm here at my client's retail space to better understand the brand's values and ethos. I'm seeing a lot of classic styles, neutral colors, but they also have some fun takes on their classic styles and shapes with these vivid colors over here. It's quite interesting. I think it appeals to quite a wide range of ages, demographics. Okay, so I'm seeing a Pan-Asian model here. I think my interpretation of this is that this brand sets its sights on a global reach. So I guess I can't be too culturally specific in my design. After cross-checking, I found out that Tocco Toscano does indeed have a regional presence, with retail locations all over Asia. Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand are their main markets. With my on-ground research out of the way, I finally meet the faces behind the brand. Could you tell me a bit about how your ads used to be like in the past?
Tocco Toscano actually means or translates to touch of Tuscany in Italian. So originally it was an Italian brand from Florence in Tuscany. My dad started bringing it over in the 80s. We kind of bought over the trademark. Since then, it's been Singapore owned and operated. A lot of the ads were very Italian inspired in the early 90s to late 90s. So very dreamy, a lot of terracotta patios in the background.
So what is this campaign called?
Oh, it's called WeCarryArt. I had the idea of showcasing Singapore artists because I myself am a creative. Yeah, I thought of launching this collab with 3 local artists first because we are a bag company, right? So it's like you carry a bag, right? But why we carry art? Basically, we are carrying the way we express ourselves, our identity, our personality.
What would you like to communicate through the advertisement? I think this is quite important for me to know. Any brand values that I should think of or keep in mind?
We definitely want to showcase our branding. It's premium and accessible. Yeah, and then incorporating the functional elements.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Atas and functional, basically.
Sorry.
In terms of design style or design elements, are there any things you might want?
Right, I'm quite keen on the vintage angle because we're actually launching this collab near National Day. We want to be hyperlocal. We want to support our local creative community, right? We thought of paying homage to Singapore's history. So I thought maybe we can consider how ads look like back then.
Very interesting. That gives me a lot to work off on, so that's great. What are my deliverables?
We need a key visual to promote this campaign. We'll use your key visual, right, or elements from your key visual, and repurpose it into a life-size standee and a poster for our departmental stores.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Before I leave, Joseph introduces me to someone really special.
How did you get your inspiration?
Inspiration, I really don't know how to put it in one sentence. I have to know what is going on in the market.
Of course.
I walk around, I look at Pinterest and then also Instagram and all that, find out what is going on in the market,
You're so high-tech. You use Pinterest and Instagram.
Yes, because I'm not just a designer, I'm a businessman, So I have to know what is happening in the market.
What inspired you specifically for this bag?
This one, I try to do a canvas collection.
I see.
You can see actually this bag is here. So I have to know what to put on, So you can put on the slim wallet,
Yeah.
So all this, you can put the lipstick.
So after you draw, you actually have to product design.
Correct, because ours now, we are moving forward to the more also on the functional side, So pen holder, lipsticks and, phone pocket and all that.
And you're drawing what the bag will look like from a certain angle, right?
Yes. After having all the ideas there, I will have to visualize, how the bag look like.
I saw how Joseph's father, Mr. Law, still hand draws the Tocco Toscano bags. And separately, my research also tells me that vintage advertisement posters in Singapore were typically hand illustrated, of course, up until around 1960s when things like photography and other sorts of media technology were on the rise. So I think as a nod to this traditional artisan spirit, I want to include some hand-drawn elements in my design. So something interesting that I've learned is that whether vintage or modern day, advertisements typically appeal to people's values and their desires and hopes. And since Tocco Toscano's clientele is largely female, I think I'm going to have to keep in mind that I want to have a trendy, feminine approach.
A few vintage ads that have caught my attention in particular are from the Phoenix Aerated Water Co. Many of the women in their ads just exude panache, from their clothes to their hairstyles. I've managed to track down a member of the Mystery family who founded the company.
So we've got this 1930s ad here. It's a Phoenix Aerated Water ad. And I noticed that the figure of the girl, she's holding a cigarette.
Haha, yes. During the 1930s, we would see these ladies all smoking. You would see them in the movies, in the ads. They were all very sophisticated, and smoking was very fashionable during that period.
So to have the advertisement feature a woman holding a cigarette was to convey some sort of fashionability.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes. And enjoying her drink.
Mrs. Mystery tells me that the company's founder, Navroji Mystery, oversaw all aspects of the business, including the design of these print advertisements.
Mrs. Mystery, in this advertisement, I noticed that all the figures seem to be dressed in Western clothing. Do you think you could tell me a little bit more about this and maybe what the demographic that you were marketing to seemed to be?
This ad is definitely the GH Cafe that Uncle Navroji of Phoenix Aerated Water had in 1931. It was definitely geared to the upper middle class and to the British. GH Cafe was open more for breakfast, lunch, and tea.
Right.
And this was in Battery Road.
Yeah.
So this ad, for me, really seems as if it is GH Cafe.
Okay, interesting. This newspaper, it would be a British one, is that right?
Yes. See, many of the ads that you all have found were from the British newspapers. And that is why you see a lot of them, dressed in Western clothing. But that doesn't mean that he did not have advertisements in the Chinese newspapers as well. And they were targeting also the local people in Singapore.
So I guess the different images would cater to the different markets that they're advertising to.
That's right, definitely. This is definitely for the British newspapers where English-speaking people would be reading those papers.
So we notice in quite a few of these advertisements, the women are depicted to have short, curly hair. Is this something that was in fashion back then?
Very much so. I will say that this advertisement shows short, curly, almost permed hair, which was very much in fashion during that period. Actually, if I have some pictures of my mom over here and my aunt, and you can see that they had the same type of short, curly hair and almost permed hair. So it was definitely very much in fashion. This is an earlier picture of my mom. At that time, they used to roll the hair up like this and pin it. In some of the ads, you can see this sort of earlier on.
So it's very interesting because the depictions of the women in these advertisements very clearly reflect the fashion of the time. I would be out of fashion if I was in the 30s.
Oh, yeah.
So after meeting Mrs. Mystery and seeing all those lovely photographs of women with their short permed hairstyles, I've been experimenting with the hairstyle of my own illustration of the girl, the model that I'm using in my poster, trying to emulate that 30s, 40s kind of hairstyle look where the hair is really short and curly. I'm thinking maybe she could have a hair clip or something. Maybe like there. That seems quite retro.
I'm designing marketing materials to launch Tocco Toscano's new campaign, WeCarryArt. The brand's head honcho has requested a hyperlocal and vintage theme to showcase their new line, which is a collaboration with 3 local artists. Conceptually, I have ideas, but execution-wise, I think I need some advice. Ronnie Tan is a creative director with 5 decades of experience in the graphic design industry. And more importantly, he has given me a sliver of his time to share his insights into vintage print advertisements.
All the elements in the design are very separated and isolated.
Oh yeah, because in the early days, the way artworks are produced, we are very limited by equipment, technology, simply laid out so that it can be easily reproducible. So we cannot do like, overlapping or merging of photographs or having text, within the picture.
Oh wow! Is this a scraperboard?
Yeah, this is what we call scraperboard. Sometimes it's also called scratchboard.
Like its name suggests, scraperboard art is basically scratching off a dark layer of ink to reveal the white base underneath. Ronnie explains that while photos were able to capture details in the past, the printing quality wasn't as advanced to reproduce them. So scraperboards became an effective replacement medium for capturing the minute details.
In the early days, sometimes in the 60s, 50s, 60s, when the printing industry wasn't as good as what you have now. So in order to give a better definition and detail, we have to convert a tone, a picture, a photograph into lines. Density of the lines will determine the tonality of the object.
And why wouldn't they be able to just hand draw, hand illustrate with, let's say, pen and paper?
The purpose of the lines and the scraperboard is it can give you a photo-like quality. And when you print on say, a newsprint paper, you have sharpness and clarity with there because you can allow for certain sort of tolerance in terms of the bleeding or the smudging of the ink.
So this is one of them, an advertisement from 1926. And do you think this would have been done using scraperboard possibly?
Very likely is, I think, you can see by the lines and the darkness of the lines and the line of the lines, they're all created by scratching the surface.
Right.
Yeah.
Ronnie explains that scratching the top layer of the scraperboard will reveal a lighter layer underneath. The intricate lines will create an image similar to an engraving. The final result is a reversed composition of this printing template. The white incisions of the scraperboard become the black ink on the paper surface.
Earlier on, you mentioned artists use other medium to print yarn, but it's not reproducible. Whereas the purpose of the scraperboard is to make it reproducible in the limitation of the printing press.
I see that you've done an example here.
Yeah, this was an attempt to do what you used to do in the early days.
Right.
I drew a sort of a cat with this stylus. This is what I call a stylus, and it comes in different tips for different surface, different line, different texture.
And different thickness of the lines as well.
Yeah, different thickness of the lines. The more white area, I use a broader edge.
Do you think I could try? Is there something you could teach me?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, I've a few boards here. You can use this one.
Okay. So, are you able to move it laterally, or do you have to twist the stylus as well?
Depending on how sharp you want the line to be.
Right. The control is very interesting.
Yeah, it takes some doing.
Which direction do you go in?
Whichever direction suits you. Yeah, sometimes you can do it horizontally, sometimes you can do it vertically.
Gosh, I can't even see what I'm doing.
Let me show you. So,
It's a lot more difficult than it looks. If I want to use this for the project, I'll definitely need to put in more practice.
Nowadays, we have iPads and we even have these pens that can draw on digital mediums, and it's so much easier than drawing with a pen and a paper. But I'm quite inspired by Ronnie's career and how he started as somebody who physically had to illustrate before he moved on to becoming an art director and a designer. I think it'll be quite nice to emulate that hand-drawn feeling for my final design.
From one master to another, I'm now heading to meet Mr. Tan Chun Hong, who has been working in the advertising industry since the 1960s. He has an array of useful design tools that I've never seen before. In the 1960s, tools such as the rotating pen, French curves, and stencils were the only instruments available for designing the finished artworks of print ads because they allowed for more precision. A finished artwork is the final copy that is ready to be sent for production. Looks like Mr. Tan is all about the measurements, right down to the T.
I can tell that Mr. Tan Chun Hong has really cultivated his skill, and it is a skill so deep in him that he is able to, teach me now, even in his old age. He knows it like the back of his hand, and he's really very good at his art. Okay, so I'm going to give it a try.
Sure.
I'm probably going to use the stencil that you've introduced to me to draw a border, because that is part of my mission for this project. And I'm thinking of making the border a scalloped edge one. So I guess I can use the circles.
The crossbar on the circles will enable you to align them exactly as you want it.
Right, so something like that. As if it's a semicircle. So back in the day, if you had to complete an advertisement, roughly what is the time frame you'd be given to complete it?
Oh, it can be a couple of hours or several days.
For a couple of hours, what is the scale of the advertisement you'd have to produce?
For those ads, we'll perhaps put in a product photo. Then we stick some typesetting as a headline. Then body text, there's also a patch. At the bottom, we have a logo. That's about it, the simplest one. Maybe 2 hours to be able to do.
We have all your work here, some of your portfolio.
Yes.
I'm particularly interested in this one. So this is a packaging design that you've done.
Right.
And this is the finished artwork before it became the packaging, right?
Yes.
Do you think you could tell me a little bit more about this design?
The mogul is an Indian curry. So naturally, we use the brand mogul
Yeah.
as to give you a status. Now, that's what is sweet for royalty should be fit for you.
And this is the logo that you designed.
Yes, yes.
Did you have to use any of those tools to do the logo?
Yes, we did. This has to be drawn with using the rotary final version of it, final nib, right? And this oval was constructed using French curve again.
For this finished artwork, did you draw this border freehand?
Yes, it has to be done by hand.
By hand,
By
but
hand.
not freehand. You use the equipment.
Yes, for this, all these round curves, I was using the round template,
Yeah.
circular template. Two sizes, the smaller one and the bigger one. Then when it comes to these small curves, basically I did by freehand. The corners are done with set squares.
To make sure that it's a perfect box.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. I cannot imagine how things were done back in the day where they had to physically draw the border around the entire piece of paper, because look what I just have to do. I just need to create one little section and I can just duplicate that many times to go around the circumference of the canvas. It's so easy. I guess I could draw it physically and then scan it and put it in, but it's so much easier to get it perfect when I'm using digital tools. Yeah. I shall embrace the fact that I was born in this day and age where technology is abundant.
The key words that I have to abide by for this project are vintage and hyperlocal. Mrs. Mystery shared what these terms meant in the 1930s, but I wonder if they stayed the same as the decades passed.
I found this old Shanghai shirt called CYC advertisement online. It is from 1974 and they're promoting their opening of their Queensway Shopping Centre branch. This is like a newspaper advertisement, I think. In the advertisement, they also have a cutout gift coupon where you can cut it out and I guess bring it to the store. And then they're also advertising that you get this free calendar, a 1975 calendar, so for the following year. And there's a picture of a bikini model on it. It's really interesting.
It looks like CYC is an extremely established brand. It even dressed our former Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. It feels like their changing ads tell the story of Singapore itself. I'm here to find out more.
I noticed that you guys give out free calendars.
Correct.
Yeah, so
yes.
that was something that you guys used to do frequently in the past.
Yes.
Is there a reason behind it?
Oh, because during those times in the 1970s, calendars was like a form of advertising. Our customers appreciated having calendars as a gift. It was one of our advertising channel in that sense.
I also find it so striking that it's a lady and she's wearing a bikini. I guess there was a rationale behind that as well.
Well, the rationale is for men, they like to look at women, especially sexy women.
Yes.
So during that time, it was felt that, oh, you must use some sexy women to be the hero in the advertisement.
Yeah, the hero image. That makes sense.
Yeah. Look at this ad. It's from the 1970s. It was actually a celebration of our 40th anniversary.
Right.
So it had coupons, it had discount, and it was an illustration.
Yes, it's beautiful. 1975.
Yeah, these are like all the ads that we used to do in the 80s.
Incredible.
In the 70s, actually, there were less ads, and the ads were really more on illustrations. I think it was only in the early 80s that started to have photography and models, and the trend was you look to the West as the trend leader, so it was good to have Caucasian models.
Mrs. Fung also spoke about something that they did quite often when they were advertising in the newspaper, which is putting discount coupons that people could cut out and then use in the store. And that's something that inspired me greatly in my own advertisement for Tocco Toscano. That's the coupon cutout. It's not finished yet, and I'm not too sure how exactly I'm going to incorporate it into the poster, so I'm not going to present it to Tocco Toscano just yet.
Okay, so I have all the elements now. I just need to fit them into one cohesive design for the upcoming draft presentation to Tocco Toscano.
I would say composition was the biggest challenge because my background as a graphic designer is much more about prints, floral prints for clothing, background prints, rather than an ad where I need to include text. And that's a whole different set of skills and something that I've learned from every profile that I've talked to so far. And of course, the vintage element was a challenge because you still want the advertisement to appeal to modern sensibilities, but you want them to know that it's inspired by vintage and have a vintage feel. So that was something I had to think about quite carefully. So I'm about to go and present my first draft to Cheryl and Joe. Quite nervous because first draft is always the scariest. You never know what they're gonna say and a lot of tweaks need to be made. But hopefully they like it. I took everything that they said in the meeting into consideration. So we'll see. I'm back and I've got a draft for you guys based on what we discussed in our previous meeting. My overall principle was that I wanted to follow sort of like a standard template that was used heavily in like the 1930s to 1950s print ads in Singapore. And that template focused a lot on product images. And a lot of them, they would have an image in the background and then an image in the foreground as well. That was sort of like a template that they used a lot in that time. Obviously, for our objects of interest, the product is the bags, which I wanted to feature very strongly. And so I have a figure of a woman holding a bag, similar to the old ads of Tocco Toscano in the past, and she's holding one of our bags from WeCarryArt. And then the other two bags from the campaign are in the foreground, along with some items that you might ordinarily find in a woman's bag. So based on our conversation that we had about the brand values, which is luxurious but also functional, I thought maybe we could put atas yet functional here at the top corner, like a quip. That's also something that featured quite prominently in the past in print advertisements. They would have kind of like cute call-outs with exclamation marks. I guess it's something that drew attention in the past. For a little bit of a local touch, I've actually added a medicated oil bottle, which is something that quite a lot of people have here in Singapore. That's about it. I am very keen to hear your comments, any feedbacks. I take criticism very well, so go ham.
I think pretty cool. I captured the vibe, like the old school vibe very well. Comments? Okay, I think the tagline, that's pretty cool as well. Atas yet functional, but change the yet to something like, and functional. So it doesn't sound like mutually exclusive.
That makes sense. Okay.
Just because it's atas doesn't mean it can't be functional.
True. Actually, I really, really like your artwork. Oh, is there a way for us to incorporate the artist's face? Or like, I don't know, like parts of their personality or what?
Kind of like a hidden Easter egg.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely an idea I can think about. So basically try and feature like Melina, Eunice and Sarah somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. I will take your feedback and I'll get to work and hopefully we'll have a final draft soon. I was nervous when I presented the first draft to them. I've done this multiple times because I work as a freelance graphic designer. I always have to pitch and I always have to do first drafts, but giving the first draft is always very daunting because this is the first time your concept has materialized into something tangible. So of course you're not sure how they're gonna react, but I received good feedback. Positive feedback as well as constructive criticism, so I knew exactly what to work on for the second draft. And thankfully, this whole idea of the WeCarryArt campaign, having artists to design certain elements of their bags, this is something that already inspires me. So I already had a foundation as to what I was working on.
Now it's time to work on my second draft. I included an old-school medicated oil bottle in my original draft design, but I'm not sure if I got the proportions or the details right. I think I better get more vintage references.
I've been flipping through these publications from this amazing vintage shop here, and there are certain styles, I think, that were prevalent in the time that these advertisements were created. These are Chinese ads, and something that's pretty clear is that they used to like to use really crisp, clean lines to their product illustrations. I guess because, you know, in the past, without the use of photographs, you need to be able to capture the realism in some way, and I guess illustration was the best form to do that. So they would try to recreate as realistically as possible what the product looks like.
I managed to hunt down a medicated oil company that's been around since 1937. One of the current owners, Mr. Tan Ching Seng, shows me their feature wall that is full of advertisements from the past.
YC, do you think you could tell me a little bit more about this poster? Because I noticed it. I know it's done in the 1970s. Do you think you could introduce me a little bit to the design and why it looks this way?
Yep, sure. So essentially, this poster, it was displayed in a lot of the medical halls back then, or departmental stores. So it actually talks about Shanghai Fachi Medical Hall, which is our initial company. And then the focus is on our medicated oil, the traditional medicated oil. The design element is actually, the focus point is on in the middle, whereby we wanted to, within a short period of time, have the eye-catching kind of attention for the customers walking past the medical halls back then.
Right, yeah, because the product is very much in the foreground. Mr. Tan,
Yes.
以前你的广告和包装是谁设计的？
主要是我的父亲跟我祖父啊，他们那时候像我们一样，都是家族的生意嘛，所以都是他们研究设计这些广告的这些图了。
那这个照片是你的祖父是吗？
对，那个我祖父。
那你为什么他们会用他的照片？
一般上以前也是有很多产品都喜欢用这个照片，因为我祖父是中医师嘛，所以很多人当时他也是蛮出名的，很多人也是认识的，所以这个来讲呢，放他的图像啊，人家会更有信心哦，因为很多人都给他医好了嘛。
Yeah. So using his picture gives the brand credibility, I guess, yeah. So this is the modern day packaging for the medicated oil.
Correct.
So I realized that you've actually stayed quite true to the original brand. Is there a reasoning for that?
Initially, the idea was that we were thinking whether should we actually change the whole design concept. But we realized that there's still the original customers that are still purchasing our products. So we couldn't really deviate so much. And looking back from right now, we actually realized that it was a good decision because at least it has that traditional feel to it.
A lot of their advertisements are also quite muted in tone. And that reminds me of watercolour, which is one of my favourite mediums. So that's inspiring me as to how I might go about colouring my poster as well. I think the nature of watercolour is such that it's very hard for it to be perfect. The colour will bleed depending on how much water you add to the paint. And so the final effect is one that is quite evocative because it's not so perfect. I like the imperfect lines. I like how the colours will blend together, that there's no harshness. I think that might be quite nice for our final poster.
I was tasked by Tocco Toscano to create marketing materials with vintage and hyperlocal elements. I'm nearing the finishing line, but what's life without some color? It's time to up my watercolor game. And for this, I need the expertise of Mr. Seah, a watercolor instructor.
How can I help you?
Well, I actually want to learn a little bit more about how to do watercolour.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe to start, I would love to see some of the works you've done before.
Okay. I did for a packaging where very detailed rendering of a biscuit. Okay, and this biscuit is done also in between the two combination, watercolor and acrylics.
Wow, it's so
and of
realistic.
course, yes. So same, you have to have the skill to draw in perspective, black and white, pencil, before you work on the color.
And you made it so realistic.
Yes.
Mr. Seah, this technique of being able to create depth and giving highlights, is this something you think you'll be able to teach me?
I think so.
Okay.
Because of the intricacy of the design and the multiple colors required, Mr. Seah has to use a technique called masking. A special fluid is applied to the areas he intends to keep white for the time being, sort of like a protective cover. After the masking fluid dries, he's free to add on colors. Then the mask is rubbed off to reveal the untouched portions.
We'll paint this color over there, huh? The flower here, okay? You see a lot of white. What we do is mask exactly what we can put. Also, during the masking, you have to think, you have to follow the shapes of the petal more. Some small one here. You can see some here.
Is it dry enough to paint over?
Cannot. We have to wait for them to dry. Yeah. So the fastest way is I have a special equipment.
A little hairdryer.
All my easel, they have all these gadgets to work faster. As an illustrator, we have to equip all this fast, speed.
So you do the background of the skirt first because you're working from lighter color to darker color,
Yes,
is that right?
yes. So the colors of the red is actually stronger color than the background.
Oh, sure.
So we have to do this, a little bit of the fold for this dress here. We have to do a bit of fold here. Then we'll work on that. Okay, once we have that wash, the color of the tones, we dry it, then we work on the red, then we take out the mask, we solve the edges, then everything will turn out good.
So it's done. Masking is out. Tones is built up, softened. You want to have a try?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I use this
Light pink.
light pink.
Color you take. The light one.
Yeah.
Then slowly build up more.
Okay.
Then after you combine.
Okay.
Okay, pen. To form the shapes of the flower.
Okay, I'm done. What do you think?
Very well done, very good. How you feel?
Okay, it was hard.
The masking is pretty tough because you have to mask according to the shapes of the leaf. And the tones are all beautiful. It's the shapes of the leaf that you have to do a bit more study. And the flower, they form there.
Yeah.
And keep them rich in the center.
Got it.
Very well done.
Thank you. Watercolour is actually a medium that I've always loved. Again, I'm self-taught and I had no formal training, but to have an actual teacher teaching me the foundations of watercolour, that was a very valuable experience. And he's a lovely man. He is so talented, and most of the time, actually, I was just enamored by how well he knows this art form. So he taught me the very basic technique of drawing from light to dark, because watercolour is a medium that is not opaque. So you have to be very careful with how you build the colour. And this is a very, very important lesson. And seeing him do it and him teaching me, this is something that I'm going to take into all my future jobs. And it was also very useful to learn this medium because it's something that they really used back in the day when they did old print ads in Singapore. And it just reminded me how difficult it was for them to draw in the past because this sort of medium, you can't go back. So I am back with the final draft. I took into consideration some of the changes that you wanted me to make from the previous iteration. So it's changed quite a bit, so maybe I'll run through some of the changes I made as well as some of the design elements I've included. First off, I made some changes to the medicated oil bottle that I've included in the design. So this is definitely something that has a bit more of a nostalgic vibe. We actually took inspiration from 3-Star brand. And here I've actually done the label to flip up slightly because in some of the research that I did about vintage advertisements in Singapore, back then, how they did it without the use of technology is that they actually had to cut and paste the different elements onto a physical piece of paper. Before that was either photographed or scanned. And so the finished artwork itself would actually look a little bit like a collage, almost like a sticker book. So that was something I thought I would include. So as we know, you guys featured 3 artists for your WeCarryArt campaign. I took inspiration from 3-Star Brand. Their founder actually has his own face on some of the packaging. I thought it might be quite cute to include that idea. It's not uncommon, I suppose, for brands in the past to do that, to include a face of the brand. I thought it might be quite cute to include Eunice's face, so I've taken her portrait and I've put it on the medicated oil bottle, similar to how 3-Star Brand has their founder on some of the packaging. Over here on the mobile phone screen, because we've displayed some items that are often found in handbags, so a phone is one of the items, I actually thought it might be nice to have something on the screen that is also reminiscent of Singapore in the past, or something that has a vintage feel to it. It's actually a coupon cutout. In the 60s and 80s, a lot of advertisements and posters, newspaper ads, they actually featured coupon cutouts for brands, things like $5 off. Speaking of the headliner here, I actually took into consideration the change that you wanted me to make. Instead of atas yet functional, it's not mutually exclusive, so it's atas and functional. Okay, so that's the final draft. I would love to hear if you guys have any feedback.
Oh, I think the overall vibes are good. We managed to get what we want. And I really like Eunice's face on the medicated oil. I think it's very cute and she will love it too.
Pretty much how I envision our poster to be, right?
Yeah.
It's a good mix between what's old school and what's like a contemporary version of what's old school. Yeah. So it's a wrap.
Joseph might have said the magic words, but now it's time to bring that magic to life with some help from their in-house designer, Dia.
Are you adapting this to the standee? Yeah. So I think since the standee is pretty tall, we have to shift some things around. I think the logo can probably be above the girl, yeah. And maybe we can increase the size of the text so it pops out more.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, usually I create the whole canvas first, see what's the sizing of everything, and then try to gauge how it will look in real life, like the different elements. It might look a bit too small when I adapt it. So I probably need to see and test and try all the different elements first, and then I can build the whole thing, yeah. Oh, it's so big! It's so cool to see the design in real life because it's so much larger than the drawing that I did, on my iPad. I also think it's nice that they put the poster right next to the bags that are referenced in it, so that people get a really good sense of what this is about, and you can draw attention to this new collaboration. So I think I'm gonna hang around and hopefully I can catch some of the passerby's reaction to the poster. Hi! Sorry to disturb you.
No worries.
Just wanted to know,
Okay.
do you have any thoughts about this poster that you see here?
Honestly, it was very eye-catching because I like the bright colours, very simple, straight to the point kind of poster.
Oh,
Yeah.
great!
Yeah.
Does it remind you of anything or anything stand out particularly about the way it's drawn?
I think mainly the girl. I think she really portrays the kind of Singaporean in the olden days, which I'm a fan of actually. Yeah.
Perfect!
Yeah.
That's exactly the effect I wanted to achieve, so I
Okay.
actually made the poster. So.
Oh, it's beautiful. I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry, continue.
Okay, no worries. I'll continue admiring. Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you. I just wanted some quick remarks. Do you have any thoughts about this poster?
Oh, it's
it's very interesting. I don't think I've seen anything like this. It catches my eye. That's why I turned to look at it.
Right.
Yeah, and the language here is very interesting as well. I would not have seen the atas and functional.
Atas and functional.
Right. That's
What do you
really
think
nice.
of the girl? Does it remind you of anything?
It reminds me of like an old school actress. Yeah. Maybe she's trying to bring back a time.
Right.
Yeah, she looks a little retro. Yeah. And she's definitely enjoying her purse in her hand.
That is true.
As I am.
Yes, I was about to say, as you are.
As I am too.
As somebody who desires to live an artistic life, I was fully inspired from start to end. The final design is very much a physical manifestation of all the things that I've learned across this entire journey. I can see bits and pieces of the different people that I've met. It's amazing that they have managed to weather through the changing times. I think it's amazing that somebody's love for an art form can really transcend decades. That is what makes them such good teachers. Because they love it, because it is their job, but it is still something that inspires them until today.